This is the second technique of transferring your composition to your Bristol board. So for this method, all we're doing is printing off our composition, putting some glue down on our 5x7 Bristol board or whichever size you want to work with, and then we're just basically sandwiching it and mounting it on top of there so that we have a sturdier backing for this project. So this is kind of like the most, I guess, the simple way to approach this painting process. The hardest part with this is going to be matching the colors that we have underneath. What we're going to do now, if you guys have seen the handout, you can see that I chose a triadic color scheme for this composition. So we chose our primary colors. So right now I'm going to show you what the acrylic paint looks like on top of this print, right? So if you do have the option to print on a photo paper, say if you send it to Walgreens, or if you send it to like a Walmart photo center to print off a 5x7, I think that'll be your best case scenario. Otherwise, just kind of watch the amount of paint that you are putting on top of your painting to kind of keep warping to a minimum. I just laid down my first level of my yellow paint here. If you're just using kind of like a regular 20-pound photo paper or a regular paper, you'll notice that your paper will kind of start to warp a little bit because of the amount of moisture in the paint. So if you can look at mine, this is just kind of like a cheap laser jet paper. So there is some warping that's starting to happen here on my surface. So what I'm going to do is actually just kind of let it ride and see what I can do once this paint dries. So after I have all my paint down and all the warping that's going to happen has happened, then I'll try to kind of mat this down a little bit and see if I can get it to lay down a little bit flatter. So I'm going to keep on painting this so that we can kind of get a feel for what kind of aesthetics we can achieve with this. If at the very beginning it feels like maybe you're not going to like this piece, you kind of have that option, right? You can kind of hang in there and work through it. Or if it's really not doing what you want to, you can just kind of ditch it and go a different route, right? So the third process or the third technique that I recommended was even just freehand drawing on a postcard, so or your Bristol board. I'll do a quick demo on what that looks like and some different materials that we can use as far as creating like a drawing using different color schemes. Things that I could have done here a little bit differently. If I really kind of, or if you even have a composition that has a lot of kind of negative space in the background and you have your X-Acto knife and you want to keep some of this warping down, a good idea might be to just kind of cut out the photo elements that you know you're going to use in the composition and then leave the raw Bristol board kind of showing through so that you can paint on top of that, right? Or like I did in my last video, if you guys wanted to prepare a background first and then once that dries, glue down these photo elements and then paint on top of that, I think that could be an interesting kind of aesthetic, right, to work with. So I'm going to keep on playing with this and then we'll see how it turns out. So this is the final product after about 3 or 4 coats on each color. What I noticed was that my yellow actually went down the best, but that the blue and the red were the ones that had the most kind of translucence to them. So those took a few more layers to lay down. After I did lay down quite a few of those layers, then I came back in with my black paint and a thinner brush to kind of use that black to kind of cover up any places where that paint started to overlap. So if there are dark moments that you're starting to lose in your layering, or it doesn't hurt to come in and line up some of those dark areas in between coats just so that you don't lose them. So just remember to kind of keep an eye on your painting so that you're not losing information as you're layering.